Hi, boys and girls. Here we are, another week. We're going to finish the book this week, Sophie Mouse, A New Friend, chapters 9 and 10. We're going to finish up this book today. So we know that Sophie met a new friend at school named Owen, the snake, and she was kind of afraid of him. And then she realized that he's just a great friend. He helped her get out of a hole, remember last week. And then at the end of chapter 8, she meets Owen's mom and realizes that her name is Olivia. And Olivia Snake used to be friends with her parents. So she's going to find out if this is the same Olivia Snake that used to hang out with her parents. So we're going to see how this ends. So we're going to make sure you keep up with your reading every day. Take your AR quizzes and keep up the good work. Mrs. Lagila is hoping to do AR prizes still this year. So please be sure to keep up with your points because I'll send her all those reports in a couple weeks. So keep doing those and keep earning your points and doing good work. Okay, so today we're going to pick up with Chapter 9, Old Friends and New Friends. Okay, there's Olivia with Mrs. Snake right there. "Excuse me, Olivia, I mean Mrs. Snake," said Sophie. "Did you grow up around here?" Olivia's eyes went wide in surprise. "How did you guess?" she said with a laugh. "I used to play all the time in this very buttercup patch." "With George and Lily Mouse?" Sophie asked excitedly. A speechless Olivia Snake nodded. So Sophie added, "They're my mom and dad. My mom is at her bakery right over there." She pointed toward town. "We were picking buttercups for a recipe she is trying out." Suddenly, Sophie had a great idea. They could all go back to the bakery together to surprise Mrs. Mouse, and Mrs. Snake loved the idea. Hattie, Owen, and Mrs. Snake helped Sophie pick fresh buttercups to replace the ones that had scattered when she fell. Then they walked together to the bakery. Sophie and Hattie walked in first. Mrs. Mouse was happy to see them because she had started to worry. Then Olivia and Owen came in, and Mrs. Mouse nearly dropped her cookie sheet. "Oh, I'd know that face anywhere," Mrs. Mouse said. "Olivia Snake." "Lily Mouse!" cried Olivia. Mrs. Mouse gave Mrs. Snake a big hug, while Sophie jumped and clapped for joy. Happy surprises were the best. "Well, this calls for a celebration," Mrs. Mouse declared. She fixed up a tray of pastries and made a pot of tea. Then the two old friends sat down at a cafe table to chat and catch up. Meanwhile, Sophie, Hattie, and Owen set up their own tea party behind the counter. They took turns sneaking pastries from the grown-ups' tray. After a few cookies, Sophie asked the question she'd been wondering all week. "Owen, how come you never came back to school?" Owen hesitated. "Well, my mom used to be a school teacher," he said. "She's teaching me at home. For now, at least." Owen looked down. "Anyway, I didn't think anyone liked me." "Oh, no," Hattie burst out. "That's not true." "Not exactly." Sophie gulped, feeling embarrassed. "I think it was just, well, we were all a little nervous. None of us had ever met a snake before." She took a deep breath. "We're really sorry, Owen." Soon it was time for the snakes to leave. Sophie thanked Owen for saving her. "Will we see you at school on Monday?" she asked. Owen moved slowly toward the door. Then he looked back at Sophie. "Maybe," he said with a smile. Chapter 10, Better Late Than Never. Sophie tapped her pencil on her desk. She stared at the clock on the school wall. It was Monday morning. Mrs. Wise was about to start the first lesson. Owen wasn't there. Sophie looked over at Hattie, 2 desks away. They had saved the desk between them for Owen. "I thought for sure he'd come," Sophie whispered to Hattie. She slumped in her chair. "I guess I was wrong." Just then the door swung open. A ray of sunlight fell across the classroom. Owen hurried in. "Sorry I'm late, Mrs. Wise," he said, out of breath. Sophie heard some of the students whisper in surprise, but this time it was Sophie who squeaked from happiness. She waved wildly to Owen. Hattie motioned for him to take the desk between them. He came over and sat down. "We are so glad you're here." She could feel everyone looking at them, including Mrs. Wise. Sophie's eyes met her teacher's. Mrs. Wise winked and smiled warmly. At recess, Sophie and Hattie led Owen outside. "What should we play?" Hattie asked. Sophie shrugged. "What do you like to do, Owen? Hopscotch?" Owen shook his head. "I'm not good at jumping," he said, "but I am good at jump rope." "Huh?" said Hattie. Owen smiled. He rested his head on the end of the bench. He propped up his tail on the base of the seesaw. Then he twirled his body around and around. "A jump rope!" Sophie and Hattie cried, laughing. Sophie hopped in and started singing. "School, school, the golden rule. Spell your name and go to school. Sophie, she jumped out. Hattie took her turn. Hattie, she jumped out. Liddy hopped over and asked if she could play. Then Ellie and Malcolm joined in. Ben walked up to Owen as he was twirling. "Doesn't that hurt, Owen?" Ben asked. "Nope, not at all," said Owen. "It's fun. I'll get tired after a while, but not yet. Jump in if you want." Ben smiled and jumped in. B-E-N. Before long, the whole class was playing. That evening, Sophie painted a picture using her newest color, buttercup yellow. It was a landscape of the buttercup patch under a bright orange and pink sunset. In the corner, she painted a mouse, a frog, and a snake playing together. Sophie stepped back and studied her work. She thought it was one of her best yet. Sophie smiled. She was happy because of her painting, because Owen had come back to school, and everyone liked him, and most of all, she had made a new friend. And there's her drawing. And there's the end with her buttercup yellow paint can. Okay, I'm really happy I bought this new series for the library. Maybe next year you'll get to check out some of the books from the library. If you liked book 1, maybe I'll pick up next week and do book 2. But we'll see. I'll look and see what books I have here at home, and we'll kind of, I'll start a new novel next week. You can take the AR quiz on this book. If you want to go back and listen to the whole novel over the past 5 weeks, you can. You can get 1 point for taking the AR quiz. So you can do that. And all right, so I'll see you next week with a whole new book to read. All right, boys and girls, bye. Miss you.